What I've got for you today is a spicy series of StarCraft 2, where the world #1 Terran is facing off against the world #2 Terran. Bear with me. Spawning right here in the upper left, playing with the red Protoss pieces, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. His opponent, down in the bottom right, playing in blue, we have Maru. As you probably are aware, Clem no longer plays Terran versus Terran, and he hasn't in quite a long time. He's been destroying basically every single Terran that he goes up against with his Protoss instead. And at this point, I consider Clem's Protoss versus Terran probably to be like top 3, maybe like top 4 in the world. Here's the thing with Clem's Protoss. When he gets to play a normal game, it is pretty much unbeatable. I think where he mostly seems to struggle is whenever the opponents throw a curveball, and because of that, I do favor Maru, because Maru is really the master of Terran curveballs when you think about it, right? Like, he loves going for SCV all-ins. Maybe he likes to go for a little bit of a proxy as well here. Maybe we just want to scout and go for like an engineering bay block. Either way, Clem really is an absolute beast. This particular series was played during the GSL qualifiers. Now, both of these players are qualified for the GSL in the end. Spoiler alert, I suppose, so it doesn't really matter. But this is one of those matches that they played along the way. And I am very curious, because this is just one of those matchups that doesn't really happen all too often. Now, I just realized I've actually forgot turning on my health bars. But lucky for me, I'm a professional, so I figured it out early enough. All right, it's gonna be a Cybercore inside of the main base right here for Clem, as he will indeed get his natural expansion blocked by an engineering bay, now forcing the Frenchman to go for a third base as his very first expansion. In the meantime, the probe scout is checking out roughly what's going on. He will see that it's a Marine first. This is mostly just interesting because it means that there is no Reaper, right? That's gonna at the very least keep this early game defense a little bit safer. You don't necessarily now need to go ahead and chrono boost, but it's still totally fine here to get an adept out a little bit quicker. Command center inside of the main base here for Maru. I'm assuming he probably wants to be approaching this somewhat safely. I don't know, like this is another thing I have noticed whenever Terrans go up against Clem's off race, right? Even though he's technically off racing, he's still ridiculously good. Sometimes they're like, okay, I'm better than this guy when he plays Protoss, so therefore I'm just gonna cut corners and play really safe. That can also be massively problematic. Actually, the other day when I checked, Clem was sitting at the #1 position in Grandmaster League with above 7,000 MMR in rank 1 of GM with Protoss. I think like his Terran was like rank 4 or so on the EU server, and his Protoss was rank 1. So definitely don't assume here that Clem is just memeing. This guy is a beast, and he's been prioritizing it. So what Clem actually does, he's in like a unique position, right? Where when he plays Protoss, or when he's just playing ladder in general, say he's playing ladder and he keeps queuing up against Terran, because really, like, when you are at 7,000 MMR, the amount of people, like the absolute number of people that you can face off against is really low. So say he keeps queuing into, like, Hero Marine over and over and over again or whatever, he can just switch to laddering with Protoss instead and actively practice Protoss versus Terran. Like, most of us normies, aka everybody, we don't get to choose what matchup we want to play on the ladder. But Clem, in a weird way, because the pool of players that he goes up against is so ridiculously small, that MMR, when he is seeing, okay, hey, Hero Marine is live right now, or hey, Showtime is playing, he can decide what race he wants to be going for right then and there. Not so much Maru, though, because Maru is a very sneaky player, and obviously he's located in Korea. Opening up with a quick Cyclone here. Obviously, the natural expansion of Clem got blocked, so that means that the third is a little bit more vulnerable. We have a Robo facility added into the mix, a quick third base here as well for Clem. Maru is ready to lay down the law early on already. Blink is not yet finished. We do not have a shield battery over here, and I wonder if that's going to cost him. Yep, this Stalker is certainly dead. The second Stalker is also in a world of trouble. Nice little bit of pickup micro there by Maru, trying to just save this. And I think the lack of a shield battery here, and the fact that this is a third base rather than a natural expansion, is going to cost Clem quite dearly. You may have all the MMR in the world, but when you're going up against Maru, he will know how to react. Looks like one more Stalker is going to fall as well, maybe even a second one. So many probes dying here too. This is actually an absolute disaster. Here I am, spending like 5 minutes hyping up Clem, where he's just getting dumpstered in the first match of this series. That being said, this wasn't free for Maru. 9 probes is nice. 4 stalkers is real nice too. But obviously, he's going up against somebody with chrono boost. So the worker count is really not that bad here for Protoss at this point in time. And obviously, as soon as the 3rd base kicks in, that number is only gonna get more and more favorable here for Clem. But let's see what Maru can do on the back of this. For the time being, Clem is gonna have a little bit of map control. The question is mostly, does Maru decide to send the boys? Because Maru is a fan of sending the boys. He does go into the Stimpak research now, okay. So he's not gonna be going for like a very quick SCV all-in. Building onto the advantage here for a little bit longer. Clem, by the way, he's been quite vocal about not really enjoying Terran versus Protoss very much. As a matter of fact, he has recently, not in every instance, but he has recently also begun playing Protoss versus Protoss. So when he's playing a tournament, he may actually prioritize playing PvP and then also Protoss versus Terran, and then only switch to Terran when he faces off against another Zerg. I'm not really sure if that has a whole lot of staying power, but it is certainly something that's very interesting to me. You know, some people just balance wine, and then some people actually get a rank 1 Grandmaster. I mean, if at the very least you want to do a bit of balance whining, that is a pretty nice way to back up your arguments. Alright, we have the classic timing attack though lined up right here for Maru. So that's Stimpak, combat shields, +1 infantry attack. It is that golden trio of upgrades that finish up right around the same time, and it's a massive power spike for what Maru currently has. Maru doesn't have a 3rd command center. As a matter of fact, he prioritized additional production, so triple barracks here, together with a single factory and then a single starport. That means he's just about ready to go for a push, and I like this timing here, actually. Unless we lose a siege tank, which I don't think is gonna happen. I like this timing because he's moving before the upgrades are done, making this attack very sharp. Oh, and we are gonna pull the boys. Okay, we are gonna SCV all in. This is Maru's new signature move. He loves going for this all-in, but it does mean that he has nothing to go home to. Is there enough, though, here for Clem to defend? There's a single Colossus available. We do have charge slots done, but this army here for the Frenchman is just looking so tiny. I really like the Widow Mines here as well, just in case the Zealots decide to charge in a little soon. We do have a little bit of a Zealot run-by as well attempted, but I think this base is as good as dead. Then again, though, Clem can't really give up on it, so he decides to pull the trigger. Decent little bit of detonation there on the Widow Mines. Zealots have actually decided to return back home right now, forcing those tanks as well to deal some splash damage onto their own friendlies. We do see the Nexus, though, falling, and even though the worker losses have been reasonably minimal on the side of the Protoss here in this particular engagement, my concern is the army, and there's just way too much right now for Maru. 53 army supply versus only 2, as Clem decides to GG out. Okay, and that will take us to Tourmaline, game number 2 in this best of 3 series. Maru has refined the SCV all-in a little bit over the last couple of months. A few months ago, and I think that's actually also him going for a little bit of balance wine, by the way, even though he's not as vocal about it as some of the other Terrans out there. Maru is no longer really playing macro games against Protoss. A few months ago, he started doing these SCV all-ins, and he basically is just going for a relatively standard attack, but then he decides to bring the workers as well just to tank a lot of damage. This was like a more refined version of it. He dealt damage early on and then realized, okay, that now creates a perfect transition for me to go for an all-in, like the one that he just executed. And it mostly, though, is something that comes down to Clem's early game defense. Losing, yeah, the Stalkers there, and then, like, what was it, like 8 probes or so to the first medevac drop. It's just too much, right? So when you get your natural expansion blocked, you're forced to go for the forward 3rd base. You have a similar setup here as well, potentially on Tourmaline, although Maru is not sending out an SCV for an NG Bay block this time around. I think you probably always want to be going for a shield battery or 2, just to be safe. I mean, 2 shield batteries is real expensive. Clem probably just took a bit of a chance, decided to cut some corners, and he got punished for it. Maru, though, also actually a very strong, formidable Protoss player. A few years ago, Maru was, just like Clem is right now, he was actually the highest ranked player too on the Korean server with Protoss. Interestingly enough, it seems that everybody's off-racing, like both the Zergs as well as the Terrans. They're all off-racing with Protoss. Nobody, though, is off-racing with either Terran or Zerg, it seems. It's funny, man. Like, even the guys that don't really actively balance wine, if you read between the lines, or maybe you need to read between the games, I think they are definitely complaining a little bit. But then again, being vocal about it doesn't really give you a whole lot, so I guess they're just yeah, having some fun. And sometimes when you're frustrated, right, and I think everybody has experienced this in a game, sometimes when you're frustrated, it is just simply more enjoyable to test the waters on the other end, right? Do I mean, say you're playing an MMO, maybe trying out a different class from time to time. When you are indeed not getting what you've been looking for, or maybe you're not getting the drops you've been aiming at. It can be fun to just mix things up a little bit. And believe it or not, professional gamers are really good at video games. Yeah. You may think, like, who's the best random player in the world? Well, I don't know who the best random player in the world is. I don't have any proof, but it's probably Clem. Even though I've not really seen him play Zerg over the years, I'm sure his Zerg is far better than mine, even though I've spent probably 100 times as many hours playing Zerg as Clem has. It's just because, yeah, good players at video games are good at the game. All right, what are we going to go for this time around? Well, this is another thing with Clem's style, right? Like, he's not as strong when he gets thrown off. I think in Protoss versus Terran, that is. He also is very predictable. So he loves going for effectively the strategies that MaxPax likes to play. But he loves to go for the Blink Stalker opener. I want to say like 9 out of 10 games. It makes him a little bit of... yeah, it makes him a little bit too predictable maybe. And that's a bit rough, but across the board, Blink Stalkers, it is indeed the gold standard for a reason. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's going to be playing this game in and game out. Just because it's, yeah, technically, theoretically, the best build to be going for. It's kind of like opening up with, like, let's say, like, Hellion Banshee, triple command center in Terran versus Zerg. Clem very, very rarely deviates from the plan. And even though he likes a bunch of other builds too in TVZ, for example, and he does do some variety as well in Terran versus Protoss, this is just the best way to play it most of the time. Maru is scouting right now, and he will see the timing of the Robo facility. That's going to give him most information already. It's very indicative of there being a Twilight Council out there somewhere. And this, I think, alone already is going to give him all the info he needs, even though technically it can be, for example, Charge or Glaive to Depths or whatever. I think when you see this exact setup from Clem, the timing of the third base, the Robo facility, and all the rest of it, it is very clear right now to Maru that this is just a good old Blink Stalker opener. Now, interestingly enough, even though this is reasonably predictable from Clem, this is actually a double gateway, triple Nexus build. So the norm for a long time has been to go triple gateway before the third Nexus. In this instance, we actually have Clem cutting some corners and getting a faster third base up. It does mean that he is keen to play the macro game against Maru. And obviously, we've already seen Maru go for an SCV all-in. Lately, Maru does not seem to be too excited to play a macro game against Protoss. So I think this is like an open invitation here from Clem. Asking Maru, hey, come, let's play a bit of a longer match. See how it goes. Cloak Banshee here, though, for Maru is going to move in. We should have an observer out. Yeah, there's 2 observers available. One of them is moving on over in this direction right now. There are 2 Banshees as well, so it's important to be prepared against both of them. 5 probes for a Banshee is not bad. Maybe the second one can get even more work done. Of course, quite a costly build as well for Maru. Cloak is not a cheap upgrade, and the amount of time that this yeah, set of units occupies inside of the starport is significant as well. Yeah, so how do we feel about 6 worker kills for 2 Banshees and then also the cloaking research? I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think you would want to lose less, right, as a Protoss in this instance, but it's now a pretty one-dimensional follow-up here as well for Maru. Losing both of those Banshees, it does mean that there's no more units hiding off in the corner of the map. There's not a Banshee hiding and then ready to come back in for another little bit of harassment in a moment. Scan is going to reveal one of the observers. But already, we have the extended thermal lens coming up, just like in the previous game. And we already have charts just about done as well. So this is a setup that I like way better right now for Clem than a very similar, compared to a very similar game that we just saw in the first map of this series. Poking for some freebies. A little bit of damage done here. The Stalker shields, of course, will regenerate. Maru is likely not going to pull the workers against this, especially not with a third command center coming up. Colossus number 1 is out. Charge is done as well. This is still a scary push, though. Really comes down a lot to the harassment here with the Stalkers and also the Widowmine hits. There is a second Colossus on the horizon. There's no way you can really push in here, Maru. Maru's going to test the waters, though. He really wants to get the Colossus. But he knows that this is on a timer. If he waits too long, second Colossus is going to be available for Protoss. And then, of course, we're also going to see the extended thermal lance. Nice snipe right there of the Observer at the very least. Yep, it makes these Widowmines a lot more potent. There's no Prism available here for Clem. Could actually go into a 4th Nexus already if he wants to. Wouldn't be surprised. But maybe he wants to see if he can potentially get some work done. Good blink right there. Extended thermal lens is available, and indeed a 4th Nexus is going to be planted down in a very aggressive position. And this is the type of spot, man, that I always like for Clem whenever he plays Protoss. Like, this is when that momentum starts moving in his direction. And it's very similar to his Terran. He is a very momentum-heavy, Terran player, and in this mode right now, I mean, he's not really in a game-winning spot yet, but this is a position that Clem is very comfy with. Oh, really, Maru? Really? Maru decides to bring the workers out right now, but the Viking count is still very low. There's only 4 of them. Clem sees it right here, gets a couple free pot shots yet again. Really, Clem? Is this what we're gonna have to defend with? That's a lot of lost mining time here for Maru already. I don't really like it. Yet again, good blink right there from Clem. Yeah, SCVs are actually now just being transferred and over towards the 3rd. Clem now sees, though, that the 3rd CC hasn't even landed yet. Looks like 2 Stalkers here did bite the dust as they were trying to retreat. But so far, this has been a very, very comfortable setup. Clem is currently moving up to 70 workers. He's currently at 67. Gen Alpha rejoice. But the real question is this army here for Clem not already too big? The Widowmines are currently recharging. The Colossus and the Stalkers are indeed moving in. Zealots are charging forward. Those SCVs from the 3rd base are indeed being gunned down now by the Colossi. 4th Colossus joins in as well. Where we are going, we do not need a Warp Prism. The Marauder count is high, though. Another Zealot Warp in would be sweet. Even though the Colossi, they don't really deal that much damage to Marauders. They're still going to be plenty powerful. And so many worker losses. Everything is burning to death. And in the meantime, Clem is moving north of 80 probes. He's got the 4th base up and running. 3rd base is completely empty. GG gets cold. And that means that this series comes down to the map a White Rabbit. Well, we have a white polar bear. Close enough, I suppose. No decal available right here for Maru. He's too cool for such things. Okay. So, I think where a series like this likely gets decided is by the crispness of the early game for Clem. I don't really have a better word to describe it, but really, if Clem gets to start off without losing a bunch of resources early on or having his worker count reduced drastically, I mean, it's really difficult for Protoss to keep all of their workers alive. Main issue, of course, is that you're effectively defending with, like, literally 3 units. Not very comfortable. But if you keep your worker line alive and you are managing to actually get the tech going early, if Clem gets to, like, the 5-minute mark, being slightly ahead, I feel like he rarely lets go of the game. Okay. Double gas opener here for Maru. That does mean he wants to go for a faster factory. It also means that he's going for a delayed 2nd command center. So he'll probably go factory before 2nd CC. Mining both of the gases for the time being. Usually you mine just enough for a Reaper and then also a factory. And then you can pull out a gas yet again. This is nice, though, because it allows you, especially, for example, like a Cyclone opener early on. Like, Cyclones are one of those funny units that are really, really nice early, but then fall off as soon as, well, armies go to, like, 20 supply. So once they're like a 20 supply army, Cyclones don't really seem to be that useful anymore. But the quicker you can get them out, the better they are. And of course, you can go fishing early, especially against Adepts. So I'm always a fan of seeing the Cyclones coming out. Clem really does like going for the Adept early on. We've seen him chrono boosted now in both games, and I'm assuming we're going to see the same thing again as soon as the Cyber Core finishes. No, it's a Stalker first this time. Okay. Stalker together with Warp Gates. Shield Battery indeed coming up on the low ground. Or in the main base for now. We'll probably see one as well on the low ground momentarily. Yep, there it is. Factory indeed is going to be given a nice little tech lab. And this is just such a nice start for Terran in general. As soon as Blink is done, you do lose map control. Or as soon as Charge is done. Against Clem, though, it's probably Blink. But this is a very, very powerful unit early. You can go 2 of them. Maybe make a medevac. You can pretend like it's a prism with 2 immortals inside of it. And start looking for some freebies. Clem is not sending out the units here early on, which I actually think is correct. He actually has gone for Stalker into Sentry. Energy recharge would not be too bad right here on the Sentry, so we can start Hallucinated Phoenix scouting early on. If you move out at this point in time and lose the Stalker, I mean, that is just an absolute disaster. So he wants to stay close to the safety of the battery. 75 energy. That's Hallucinated Phoenix time. Yep. And this is a build that every Terran player hates playing against. They hate going up against this particular build. Because this is the, I am going to scout your base for free. And there's nothing you can do about it. Protoss start. Oh, well, you know what? Even this is already good enough, though. Like, he's seen the Widowmine, he has seen the Cyclone. It means that there's very unlikely to be a second Cyclone available. We'll probably go into siege tank production right now. So even though technically he didn't see the full base, I think he already knows everything that he truly needs. And at the very least, it's indicative of him not really wanting to move out too much. You know what? If he was a little bit in the dark, Hallucinated Phoenix is going to be available yet again because energy recharge was used, which has now been used to actually intercept the move out here of this medevac. So beautiful movement here by Clem. It's still going to be a tidy defense, though, that we need to have here. Stalkers are running on back into the main base. Third Nexus coming up yet again off of just 2 gates. Okay. Interception here inside of the main base. Yeah, Clem hitting the bullseye, actually, with that Hallucinated Phoenix scout on the right side of the map. This Widowmine drop is achieving nothing. Robo facility now. On the back it is. Look at the worker count. 27 versus 44 with a second expansion here for Clem already. So a third base coming up. Maru is going to have to get a hold of this game fast. Because if he doesn't, he will just be outgrown very quickly. Maru here checking behind the line of sight blocker to see if the Stalkers are chasing him. Stalkers actually decide to walk into the line of sight blocker for just a moment. Trying to see if they can maybe get a free shot in onto that medevac. Blink is now done. Charge on the back of this too. Are we going to pull the boys? All right. I don't disagree, man. I think if you don't pull the boys here, if you don't get some sort of damage done real soon, Clem is just going to run away with the win. In the meantime, Widowmine drop does go into the main base. This is going to deny a lot of mining time. So at least that's something. Only a single probe falls. We probably have to pull the boys here to defend as well, though, Clem. This is a scary attack from Maru, man. Couple bunkers would be nice. Charge is obviously only just now started. If Charge was done, this would be an easy hold. That's why this push here is kind of risky for Maru. This is Blink first, but imagine if this was Charge first. What in the world is Terran going to be able to do against this? Bunker is coming up. Siege tanks are leapfrogging forward. Keep in mind that we only had, well, 2 gateways before that third. So that means that the absolute number of units here is relatively low for Clem. Losing just 1 gateway is big. Robo facility is also falling. Bunker is nearly done. Stalkers, though, did, well, take a couple of those units reinforcing Maru's attack. Maru's just rallying as many units as he can. Just sending everything that he's got. Siege tanks right now are creating a choke on the natural expansion. Charge is coming, though. It'll be available real soon. 4 gateways also building here. But Clem decides to pull the trigger before the Nexus falls. This is an aggressive blink in, and I don't think it's quite enough just yet. There's 3 Banshees up in the air, usually used for harassment only, but actually putting in a ridiculous amount of work right now. This is nice, man. Those Banshees are actually pivotal here. It's very easy to just disregard the DPS that those ladies deal, but the Banshees may very well be the key to the victory here for Maru. It's still not really over yet, though. The Stalker warp-ins are big. Probes awkwardly pushing around a lot of those units. Man, I think we should have just taken a few more shots onto the Nexus. Maybe gotten 1 warp-in off of those 4 gateways that were just finishing up, and this game would have looked very different. Now suddenly Maru is starting to break through. Is Maru actually getting the job done in the most Maru-esque fashion possible? Yep. Wedging the units in between the mineral fields here as well is perfect. Siege Tank and a new Banshee has shown up right now together with 3 more Marines. My god. Maru playing a bit of a dirty game. Can I say it? I think he got a little bit lucky. Misplay there from Clem. And also, I mean, he took a gamble, right? I mean, it's a calculated risk to assume your opponent is gonna go for Blink first. Oh, really? I mean, I guess he wanted to repair the Banshee. Let's assume that wasn't BM. But it does certainly feel like it when you're doing it against the Siege Tank that's at 90% HP. He decided to now recall towards the natural, it seems, as he did save some of the workers. A couple of Zealots here available. Oh, the Mule body blocking. Okay, the Mule actually did force the Zealots to retarget a second time around. Worker count are still, by the way, even. Is this actually still a winnable spot for Clem? It's mostly the Mule production that's scary right now. Oh, Siege Tank does indeed fall. That is the final Siege Tank available. Nexus is low, but not quite dead. Oh man, those probes are super gone though. Yep, GG gets cold because of it. A very spicy final game in this best of 3 series. But ultimately, Maru gets the job done against Clem. Do you think this is a little bit of silent balance whining from both of these players? Right? Maru just going all-ins every game, effectively winning only with SCV pools. Clem literally switching to Protoss just because he doesn't want to play TVT. I don't know. GG though. It's Maru who wins.